Hello, my name is Rebelt 808A, and today I will talk about um, the official, uh, not official plan, the review of um, policies from A Place to Grow and Provincial Policy Statement. Uh, there's a new document that's being released. Um, and I will set myself set myself up so I can watch the chat. I think I got rid of the chat function by mistake, so hopefully, um, oh, I can see chats. Um, oh, my phone's not signed in. Anyways, uh, yeah. So on in June, the Ontario government added natural heritage to a huge document. But this is the review of proposed policies, and oh yeah, though I have to mute myself. Review of proposed policies adopted from Place to Go and Provincial Policy Statement to form a new provincial planning policy instrument. It is 019-6813. And you can comment on this until August 4th, 2023. Um, yeah, so those attached documents, natural heritage on page 19 and 20. And then there was some context added. And they're saying it's largely about housing. And the government wants to combine elements of A Place to Grow to the provincial policy statement to the new land use policy document. And they want to generate housing supply, make land available for development, provide infrastructure to support development, balance housing with resources, and implementation. So they want to establish and meet minimum density targets. These have not been done previously um, under the Liberals and the Conservatives. For major transit areas, um, they say specifically. And in fact, the government of Ontario lowered density targets, and I'll talk about that in here. They want to require all municipalities to provide a range and mix of housing options. But a lot of the new housing being built or proposed is single family housing. Um, all municipalities are required to have intensification policies. I like that, except the intensification policies are too low. And we shouldn't have tall and small. We should have the what's known as the missing middle in housing. Well, I do like intensification for all municipalities, increased density, and it doesn't. The increased density doesn't have to look like the city. there could be a lot of infilling, duplexes, triplexes, stuff like that. There's a controversial requirement for municipalities to permit more housing on farms. I do like the requirement to prepare for the impacts of a changing climate and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Oh, approaches to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve air quality. That's very topical right now. Those requirements for early engagement with indigenous communities um, and coordination with land use planning, knowledge sharing. Um, but a lot of times, the government of Ontario has not had engagement with indigenous nations. Um, there's a lot of controversy around that. And then they want questions. So some of the questions: what are your thoughts on the policies that have been included from the PPS Provincial Policy Statement and a Place to Go in the proposed policy document, including the proposed approach to implementation? So what is the implementation? And then they said that implementation that they would reform efficient land use patterns, contribute to increased equitable access to housing, employment, parks, and transportation. Encourage municipalities to apply an equity lens on planning matters to engage stakeholders early in the process. So encourage doesn't really mean that much. Encourage coordination, particularly on intermunicipal topics. Okay, so question number two. What are your thoughts on the proposed policy directions for large and fast growing municipalities and other municipalities? What are your thoughts regarding the proposed policies to generate housing supply, including an appropriate range and mix of housing options? What are your thoughts on proposed policies regarding the conservation of agricultural aggregates, natural and cultural heritage resources? What are your thoughts on proposed policies regarding planning for employment? Are there any barriers to or opportunities for accelerating development and construction? Example, federal regulation, infrastructure planning, and approvals, private public partnerships for servicing, provincial permitting, urban design guidelines, and technical standards, zoning, etc. And then there's a bunch of documents, and I'm going to look at the document specifically natural heritage. So they have added some definitions of um, adjacent land. So I'll see adjacent land. So I'll start with adjacent lands. And this is important because it impacts provincially significant wetlands in terms of existing legislation. So, I guess I can do. So, adjacent lands. Okay, so adjacent lands means for the purposes of policy 4.18, those lands continuous to a specific natural heritage feature or area where it is likely that development or site alteration would have a negative impact on the feature or area. The extent of the adjacent lands may be recommended by the province or based on municipal approaches which achieve the same objectives. And then it goes down. For the purposes of policies 4.4.2.2 and 4.5.2.5, those lands contiguous to lands on the surface of known petroleum resources, mineral deposits, or deposits of mineral aggregate resources, it was likely that development would constrain future access to the resources. The extent of the adjacent lands may be recommended by the province. And D, for the purposes of policy 4.6.3, those lands contiguous to protected heritage property. So let's go back. So policy 4.1.8. Oh, actually, I could see how they changed from the previous provincial statement. Um, Adjacent lands. Definitions are very important, and they can impact how a decision is read. I guess my time. I tried doing a timer. It didn't work out. It's still showing 50. I'll try out something new next time. Uh, okay. So those So the looks like there is a change in the definitions based on size. Um, so for the purposes of policy 2.1.8 and 2.1.8 is development and site authorization shall not be permitted on adjacent lands to natural heritage features in areas identified in policy 2.1.4, 2.1.5, and 2.1.6 unless ecological function of the adjacent lands has been evaluated and it has been demonstrated that there will be no negative impacts on the natural features or on their ecological function. And so okay, so I think the extent may be recommended by the province or based on municipal approaches which achieve the same objectives. So I do think that there is a difference. So adjacent lands. Okay, so adjacent lands. Continue. Oh, okay. So there wasn't really a difference here. But if I go to policy 4.1.8, 4.1.8. Okay, so 4.1.8. So there is a difference. So I'll go. So 4.1.8 and policy 2.1.8. So this one. So this new. Oh, 4.1.8. Oh yeah. For, for the purposes. Um, so I have to go. Okay, 4.1.8. Alright, so development and site alteration shall not be permitted on adjacent lands to the natural heritage features in areas identified in policies 4.1.4, 4.1.5, and 4.1.6. Okay, so they just changed. Okay, shall not be. Unless the ecological function of the adjacent lands has been evaluated and it has been demonstrated that there will be no negative impacts on the natural features or on the ecological functions. Okay, so it doesn't look like there has been change. There did used to be 120 meters. I wonder if those 120. 120 meters used to be the standard previously, but it's not. It doesn't appear to be the case now. Um, there used to be vegetative buffers. Do they even have? Oh, no, it doesn't look like they have buffers. Alright, so that's the first definition. Doesn't look like it's changed since 2020. Um, but it is worse than the previous plan before 2020. Areas of natural and scientific interest. Areas of and these do have to be looked at very carefully, just because a slight change in wording can uh, cause the entire um, can change a lot. Um, so okay. So areas of natural resources. Okay. Areas of natural and scientific interest means areas of land and water containing natural landscapes or features that have been identified as having life science or earth science values based related to protection, scientific study, or education. And did that change since the 2020? Okay, areas containing natural land that have been identified, life science or science values related to protection. Oh, related to. Yeah, they look the same. Um, so that's the definition. It's the same. Yeah, a lot of times governments will uh, might sneak something in. Oh, policy 19. Coastal wetland. Coastal wetland means any wetland that is located on one of the Great Lakes or the connecting channels, like St. Clair, St. Mary's, St. Clair, Detroit, Niagara, and St. Lawrence rivers, or any other wetland that is on a tributary to any of the above specified water bodies and lies either wholly or in part downstream of a line located 2 kilometers upstream of the 1 in a 100-year flood line, plus wave 1 up of the large water body to which the tributary is connected. And then the 2020 version of that is 2020 version of coastal wetland. Um, okay, so that's the same. So that part's the same as previous um, definition. Um, I think it should be 1 in 500-year flood line due to changes in climate. I don't think that the 1 in 100-year flood line is accurate due to the speed of climate change. Or I shouldn't say accurate, but as useful. Let's see, page 19. Oh, it's not 19. Oh. Okay, development. C. Oh, control F. So development. So development has a definition. And then they change C. So for the purposes of policy 4.1.4, underground or surface mining of minerals or advanced exploration on mining lands in significant areas of mineral potential in Ecoregion 5E, where advanced exploration has the same meaning under the Mining Act. Instead, those minerals should be subject to policy 4.1.5. So this looks like it should be highlighted. Oh, I want highlighted. Okay, yeah. Double. So let's see. Development is development in here. Okay, so that looks like the same definition for purposes of policy 2.1.4a. Okay, 2.1.4 development and site authorization shall not be permitted in significant wetlands. Um, okay. And then instead be 2.15. So I'm not sure what this change. Oh, okay. So there's no development or site authorization allowed uh, in some of those areas, but unless there's no negative impacts, which I don't I don't um, believe is accurate. Um, the government uh, defines no negative impacts too loosely. Okay, so I think that's what it is. Okay. Um, Okay, ecological function. Ecological function. How is it defined? Means the natural process, products, or services that living and non living environments provide or perform within or between species, ecosystems, and landscapes. These may include biological, physical, and social economic interactions. So, ecological function. Okay, so that definition looks the same. Um, so endangered species. Endangered species. Um, means species as classified as endangered species on the species at risk in Ontario list as updated and amended from time to time. The Ontario government um, has changed things so that um, it's harder to become a new endangered species, more difficult. Um, let's see. Oh, if I just click this. Oh. And then so endangered species, fish, fish, fish and fish habitats. Oh, fish. Fish means fish, which, as defined in the Fisheries Act, include fish, which is a funny definition, shellfish, crustaceans, and marine animals at all stages of the life cycles. So, fish. Yeah, so that definition didn't changed, and then as defined in the Fisheries Act means spawning grounds in any other areas, including nursery, rearing, food supply, and mitigation migration areas on which fish depend directly or indirectly in order to carry out their life processes. Okay, those two didn't change. That makes sense because fish is a federal responsibility. So the definitions changing would not make sense unless federal legislation changed. Okay. Those habitat of endangered species and threatened species. Okay, means habitat within the meaning of Section 2 of the Endangered Species Act. Habitat. Okay, so that's the same definition. Um, Natural heritage features in area. Is there any natural hair? And yeah, this was released after all level plans, so I'm skeptical of some of the changes. Natural heritage. Um, like, why would they delay the natural heritage? Um, so it means features in areas including significant woodlands, significant coastal wetlands, and other coastal wetlands in ecoregions 5E, 6E, and 7E. Fish habitat, significant woodlands, and significant wildlands in ecoregions 6E and 7E, excluding Lake Huron and the St. Mary's River. And threatened species, significant wildlife habitat, and significant areas of natural and scientific interest, which are important for the environmental and social values as legacy of the natural landscapes of an area. Okay, so that seems good. Natural heritage. Um, okay. And then natural heritage systems means a system made up of a natural heritage feature and areas and linkages intended to provide connectivity at the regional or site level and support natural processes which are necessary to maintain biological and geological diversity, natural functions, viable populations of indigenous species, and ecosystems. These systems can include natural heritage features in areas, federal and provincial parks, conservation reserves, and other natural heritage features, land that can have been restored or have the potential to be restored to natural state in areas that support hydrological functions and walking landscapes that enable ecological functions to continue. The province has recommended approach to identifying natural heritage systems, but municipal approaches that achieve or exceed the same objective may be used. Um, okay, so this looks like it's the same. Oh, uh, 12. Negative impacts B and C. Negative impacts. In regard to fish habitat, any permanent alteration to or destruction of fish habitat except well in conjunction with the appropriate authorities, it has been authorized under the Fisheries Act. So, let's see. Oh, that's the archive version. Okay, negative. Okay. In regard to other natural heritage features in areas, degradation that threatens the health and integrity of natural features or ecological functions, for which an area is identified due to single, multiple, or successive developmental or site alteration activities. Um, okay. D. Okay, so they just moved. They switched. Okay, so B is the same. P is the same, anyways. Um, okay. So I'm going to see where I'm at in terms of um, um, yeah, so I'm going to cover the rest of the definitions probably tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, and uh, and yeah, I'll see if there's any differences between the this proposed policy statement in 2023 and the statement in 2020, seeing what and see what other organizations think about the changes. My thoughts. Uh, I am not a fan of the changes to housing, and I don't think that the policy statement is being followed. Um, but I'll go further in depth tomorrow. Um, anyways, thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.